Welcome to As the Story Grows. I'm Brian Patton. Today I'm stoked to share my chat with Lowell and Nic from Frail Body. Frail Body will release their new record, Artificial Bouquet, next Friday, March 29th on Deathwish Records. The guys talked about the Rockford, Illinois scene, their love for screamo, signing with Deathwish, the lyrical background for Artificial Bouquet, and more. If this is your first episode of the podcast, thanks so much for listening. You can find links to our mailing list, Discord server, and Patreon page in the show notes or at asthestorygrows.com. Come hang out. Enjoy getting to know Frail Body.
Nice to meet you.
How's it going?
Nice to meet you too. Yeah. Going well. How are you guys?
Pretty good. Yeah.
Just chilling, hanging out.
Yeah, nice Friday.
Yeah, it is Friday. Yeah. I feel like every week these days I get to Thursday and I'm like, tomorrow's the weekend, and it's like, oh fuck, there's one more day.
Right. Still got to go to work on the weekend for me.
Oh yeah.
This is work, so it's all good. I get to talk to you, right? Yeah. Awesome. You guys are currently up in Illinois?
Yeah. We're based out of Rockford, Illinois.
Yeah. Where is that in relation to anything?
We're like an hour and a half away from. We're an hour and a half northwest of Chicago.
Okay.
And then an hour and a half south of Madison and Milwaukee.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, so it's kind of right on the border of Illinois and Wisconsin. So
Gotcha.
yeah.
Gotcha. Good times. That's where you grew up?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Born and raised.
Yep.
Nice. What was growing up like?
Interesting. I mean, Rockford's an interesting place to. Rockford's kind of a microcosm of America. I think there's every time that like when the auto industry fell apart, our industries are very tied to a lot of American manufacturing stuff. So. We had the good fortune of growing up when all of that was in a decline. So, yeah, it was kind of rough, I'd say. Rockford's a tough place to grow up as a kid, and he's from Loves Park, which was also a suburb of Rockford. So it's similar. I don't know. You can talk about Loves Park.
So like
more than that.
To put it in perspective, Loves Park, I believe, has the most bars per capita of any city. So that's kind of what it's like. If you don't go to college, there's like 2 or 3 factories in the area that like most people go to work for like decent jobs if they don't go to college.
Yeah.
One of those was like the Chrysler manufacturing plant. That shut down for a couple months last year, but I think they're back.
Yeah, they're back. But that's like it's always been our industry is. The auto industry is like a whole thing, and then it's also the defense industry too. So it's you're either pressing car panels or you're making Tomahawk cruise missiles. So it's kind of like bleak.
Yeah. So pretty much like if you live here and you want to make like a comfortable living, you kind of have to go to one of the cities and just make the commute. Like I work in Chicago, so just do an hour and a half drive one way every day, and yeah.
That sounds fucking miserable.
I have a good time because I get to like listen to podcasts. So I'm like, I'll listen to work. Like, hell yeah.
Sure. Yeah, I guess. Good times. What got each of you into music?
Oh man, I don't know. Well, I mean, we both kind of had like our dads were.
Yeah, my dad played guitar. His dad played bass. Yeah. And
that's funny. We flip flopped too.
Yeah. So I play bass in the band. He plays guitar.
Yeah, I play.
And then, like, my little brother started playing guitar before me in, like, 2005. My dad took us to see, like, Deep Purple, I think, was our first concert, Deep Purple Mountain. And I was just like, man, dude, it was fucking awesome on the waterfront. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And we were on Roger Glover, the bass player for Deep Purple's side, and he was, like, doing all these cool stage moves and shit. And I was like, yeah, I want to do that.
So you chose bass. It wasn't, like, just, like, the extra guitar player who picks up bass?
I started on bass, yeah. I think I chose bass because my little brother started playing guitar first.
Okay.
So, like, my life trajectory might have been different if he didn't start playing first. I don't know. But I wanted to, like, jam with him. So I was like, well, what's not a guitar that we can have in the house, you know?
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, my dad was a jazz bassist, so I kind of grew up with music everywhere, and a lot of it was like a little bit more on that side. My dad was going through like a fusion jazz phase when I was born, so when I was a really little kid, I was listening to like Herbie Hancock and Weather Report and stuff like that, and like lots of Jaco stuff. I picked up bass. We met each other in the 2000s in the scene in different bands, and we were like almost rival bass players. Like, and it was just kind of one of those things where we were in different bands around each other. We were always hanging out, even though we'd never really been in like. I was a vocalist in his old screamo band Roanoke for a couple months, and then they kicked me out as the vocalist. So we just had been like, we'd like known each other. We kept in touch after that band and hung out a bunch after that. I mean, that was like really, I think, when we really became friends. But then over the years after that, I mean, I couldn't find other people that wanted to make music like Roanoke. And then when Roanoke broke up, I was like, well, I mean, I'd started playing guitar because I was like, well, nobody wants to do this shit. It was, I mean, Rockford was a Christian metalcore town.
Yeah.
That was like our big thing. And so for us, like screamo and like post-hardcore and all that shit was like, there would be people that would be into it, but not that many people that were into it were playing like instruments as much. So our kind of group was like a little bit of the odd ones out. And when I started picking up guitar, it was mostly out of necessity because I was just like, well, fucking he plays bass and like nobody else wants to do this shit. And like, I can't find a guitarist that wants to do this. And obviously nobody wanted to do fucking vocals. So it just kind of happened that way. But yeah, we're the founding members of Frail Body. Is like basically happened over a conversation at a bar and was just like, we should just do this. Like, we have been trying to make this kind of thing happen, and we just can't seem to find success with anybody else. And everybody else keeps on trying to pull things in different directions. So, like, let's just try and do this shit ourselves. So, yeah.
Nice. Roanoke. Is this the same Roanoke that released Vast Knowledge of Things That Don't Matter?
Yeah.
Fuck
Holy
yeah.
shit. Okay, cool.
I fucking love that EP.
Dude, that's fucking awesome. Oh, yeah. Oh, that's
I was like, Roanoke, I know that name. Let me just quick look through my music out. Yep, there it is.
Fuck yeah, that was like my high school and then like a little bit into my early 20s band. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Wow.
Outside of it just being like a Christian metalcore town, was it like a good scene? It seems like, yeah, you had a lot of bands.
Oh yeah.
A lot of people.
I mean, when I was in my teens, like there were like multiple shows a night. Like the first show I ever played, we played a show the next day in the same town, and both shows had like over 100 people at it, you know? So it was always like at that time period, it was a really thriving scene. There were a lot of house venues. There were a lot of church basements, rec centers, stuff like that. And there were a couple bands from around here that I love. That like Joie de Vie is like a emo band that they're kind of like they were on like Count Your Lucky Stars, like a twinkle emo band, but they're fucking awesome. They're still a band, sort of.
Yeah, they're still playing shows.
Yeah, they're still playing shows.
They'll maybe release their breakup record eventually. Yeah. They're in there. They're in there. We have children.
They're all dads and stuff. Yeah. But then there's a lot of there's like a punk house that would do like traditional punk stuff, like power chord, fast, fucking stuff like that, and then like folk punk stuff. There were all the church based. Yeah, there was a lot going on for a long period. Yeah, and
this scene spawned the Color Morale too. I mean, that was like our big product of like the Rise Records era.
Yeah, so we had the Color Morale. There's a band called the Felix Culpa that I loved a lot.
Absolutely.
And then there's a band called Steady Hands that was really awesome. Kind of like
they're great. Yeah.
Yeah, they were a band when I was in like junior year. and then a little bit after high school, and that was probably my favorite like local band.
Yeah.
So there was a good scene for a bit.
What is it about the screamo sound, that kind of classic screamo sound that, like, I don't know, stuck with you guys and made you want to make that type of music?
It's just a really honest form of like hardcore, you know. It's not like a macho thing. There's integrity to it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people just get on stage and they bear it all, and it's really cathartic, I guess.
Yeah, it's got heart. It's also just like, I think that a lot of, I mean, screamo can definitely get, when you start moving into the realms of like emo violence and stuff, where, you know, you're doing like, you know, the same 6/8 like octave chord, like panicky shit, like, okay, sure. But like, I feel like a general qualifier for being labeled a screamo band is that like you've got to have some good clean parts here and there, and you've got to have dynamics, and that's something that I think really, you know, is as much as I will listen to power violence and grindcore and shit like that, and I can get that out, you know, screamo will have the really fast blast beaty parts, but then it'll have the like, oh, I can like actually play some clean guitar and like make some intricate stuff, and then like it might have some delay stuff, some pulling from grindcore and pulling from post rock in the same thing. There's not really that many genres that besides like maybe black gaze or like some of the other fringier things that sort of unite things like that. So I think it's important.
Yeah, when I talked to Sean from Loma, I said like their band and like your band, there's like this urgency to the music. Everything feels like urgent and immediate, but you have these moments, especially like I'm thinking on the new record, Devotion, with that like quiet breakdown, and like there's such a heaviness you feel that when the song kicks back up, you're just like, yeah, let's fucking rip some shit apart, right?
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing is I feel like screamo can have energy, but that energy is more anguishing.
Yeah.
And I feel like anguish is a more mature emotion than anger. Yeah. I feel in some ways. And that's why I feel like a lot of times, like it might be a genre that gets pushed to the side because like sometimes it is hard to sit down and like kind of like connect with something that's a little bit more disturbing in that way. It's a lot easier to just, you know, make a fist and hit your friends, but y'all love doing that shit, but like yeah. Where'd
the band name come from?
That's hilarious. Wait, what a fucking night.
So it was like New Year's Eve or something, right?
It was New Year's Eve. Yeah. No.
So I got like pretty drunk, and I was just like coming up with like, like
it was you and Rob.
I was talking to my friend Rob from this band Cadence Fox, and Past Forms, two great bands. But I was just hammered with him, and like we were just kind of like making fun of screamo and how like dramatic some of the band names are, and so like we were just like going back and forth, and then I was like, yeah, my frail body, and Lowell was like, wait, he was like, there we go,
maybe no mind.
No mind.
I think maybe frail body. Yeah, I was like, actually, that's pretty cool.
So
a lot of the material, not to cut you off, but a lot of the material is, virtually all of the lyrics are like the only thing that I have like a full kind of control over. The lyrical content is like about my mother passing away, and I guess my internal process of like how that's fucking affected my life. And so my mom wasn't passed away at that point, but it was something that when that name kind of got brought up, it kind of felt like a universe clicking into place moment where it was like, fuck, but also but this is also, if this is going to eventually be the vessel for that grief, then maybe this is truly what it needs to be, So, yeah.
How'd you guys get connected with Deathwish?
Yeah.
Our friend Allie, Allie Pierce, she's a big screamo head, and she worked there at the time, and we just like became friends online and started talking, and we sent her. Do we send her the demos, or we send her the actual recordings?
Yeah, I think we sent her like pre-masters or something. Yeah. We didn't think that they were actually gonna.
We weren't sending it to her like, hey, show Deathwish. She just was fucking awesome and showed Deathwish, and then and then that kind of that just happened because they dug the EP, and it's fucking awesome. Allie is like the reason that if you know our name or anything, it's literally because of her. So.
Yeah, she like went out of her way and found us, and I'm not even entirely sure if it was just a Spotify record or something like that, but she shouted us out on the Deathwish podcast, and then like I just like followed her and I like DM'd her just to be polite and just be like, hey, thank you, like I just don't even you're gonna read this, but like whatever. And then she was like, oh, I really like it, whatnot, and months later I like sent her a thing like, oh, by the way, like we did record something, and we shopped to like a bunch of other people, and Deathwish really was kind of a like, okay, well, maybe they'll pass it around. We'll see. Maybe Jeremy will like it, and maybe we can talk with him about doing something with Secret Voice or whatnot. And then after 2 weeks, she like DM'd us, and she was just like, yeah, so everybody really likes it. And we were like, oh shit, you're like showing people. Like, so do you guys want to like get on a call? And we were like,
yeah.
Okay, sure.
It's like dream shit. So yeah.
That's super rad that it was just like somebody there was already a fan, and it just made it easy when somebody's advocating for you who likes you already. It's like they're like, why wouldn't we take a chance?
It was an incredible. Yeah. It was so tight.
Yeah, we really do owe it all to her. Deathwish for sure, but Allie especially.
Yeah.
And I think everybody would agree with that for sure.
Absolutely.
You guys put out a brief memoriam November 2019. Obviously that record probably got a little shortchanged as like COVID shut everything down and probably messed up all touring plans for that album. You did a couple live like versions of it, but like how did the lockdown affect the band and kind of what you had planned? And
so lockdown happened while we were on tour with a band called Modern Color, and we were doing like I think we did like 20 plus days, and everything was fine, but like so we were going out west. They're from California, so we were like routing back with them, and every city we played would shut down the day after we played. And at the time we were like, this is kind of crazy that these cities are shutting down. Like, what? And then like our last show on that tour, we were supposed to have like 4 after it, but our last show was in Oklahoma. Tulsa, Oklahoma. And then and
it was a matinee too.
It was a matinee
because it was like 2 p.m. It was like the most wet blanket like ending to a tour.
Yeah.
Just like
it was off the door. And then that show was fun, but it was also like a hardcore show that we got added onto, so it wasn't like our crowd necessarily.
Gotcha.
But so the matinee show happened, and then the news was like, yeah, our country is like done for a little bit. We're like, all right, so we like drove home from Tulsa overnight, which was like an 18-hour drive or something.
Yeah, no, and this city, Rockford in Illinois as a whole went into lockdown like while we were still on the road. Oh, wow. So like we all have vivid memories of like getting off the main highway and like going down the main street at like, you know, it was like 7:30 in the morning, you know, like people driving to work time, and just like getting to this hill where you can kind of look across like an expanse of Rockford and just being like, we're the only ones on the road. And we're just so weird. And we just like rolled up to each other's homes and we were like, all right, I guess I'll see you later.
We were like, well, you know, but I guess like one positive, this kind of feels shitty to say, but like one good thing that happened for us with the pandemic is it gave us a lot more time to focus writing on the songs for Artificial Bouquet. Because we had like versions of the songs that we thought were good and done. Yeah. But then we had like several months to do nothing but practice and rearrange. And so I will say there was like a, God, it's so shitty. There's a positive thing for us to not being able to go to work and like having to suffer through all that financial hardship and all that. And
yeah, and we were rehearsing we basically wrote the record like 1.5 times or so. Like we pretty much wrote all the songs, and then we we threw out like one or two entire, I think, Titus became like a single, like it got completely rearranged, and then we like would keep the middles of the songs and then rewrite. Once we rearranged how we wanted them to go on the album, we'd write the beginnings and the ends so that they flow. Yeah. So that it would flow like a continuous play. And we really wouldn't have gotten the opportunity to write in that way, and to also like basically ship demos to Allie and have Allie be like, wow, this is incredible, this is great, when can we get started? And then have us be like, actually, never mind, we're scrapping it all, we're going to rewrite it. And her being like, what the fuck? And we're like, oh, just don't worry. And delivering a whole new version of it.
Yeah, because I feel like prior to this record, like every time we wrote a song, we were just in a room, we wrote a song in like 5 minutes, and that was it. There was no thought, you know? Yeah. So being able to take a step back and say, hey, what if we took this part from this song and moved it over here to this other song, like stuff like that. Like, yeah,
there's endings of songs that even started as endings of other songs on the record that both exist on the record, but in different places. Like it's wild the way that we were able to like really focus. Like it was like a job. I mean, we clocked in. We'd show up at 10 and we'd leave at 5. You know, and we did that 5 days a week. Like we were our little COVID pod. We only saw each other.
Yeah, we would go to practice, we'd go home, and we'd be like, man, everything sucks.
Yeah. Now it is ourselves and our partners and our like very, very close group of friends that are us, and like we treated it like a job, and now we're relearning the record, and it's going a lot better than I had imagined. I was really nervous, and it's like, no, we busted our ass for a long time so that we could not practice some of these songs for a while and come back to them and be like, okay, no, we're good. We're good. We're right back to you know, gives us the ability to cycle things in and out, and we know it way better than we would have if we were just like trying to address it, you know, once or twice a week.
Yeah, but it did suck like not being able to push Brief, and we had a bunch of tours booked and stuff, like every other band did at the time. Like we were supposed to. We had Europe booked.
Yeah, we had Europe booked. We were plans for Japan and the Philippines and Australia and a bunch of shit, and
then like all that stuff fell apart. But but I just wanted to bring up like the one positive of COVID happening. Because you know. Everybody's already said like all the horrible things. So trying to stay positive.
Yeah, I mean, this record wouldn't happen if it wasn't for that. And in some ways, it would be very different. The themes on it would be different. I mean, the entire first song is just about COVID, just being like, oh god, like we as a species don't know how to deal with basic things anymore. Like, we don't. Shit, what does that bode for the future? Like, what are we gonna do?
Right. It's like, why is the toilet paper gone? What the fuck are we doing, guys? It's so crazy. But even then, like, you know, COVID's 2020. We're here in 2024. What took so long to get this record out? Just manufacturing delays, just taking your time to make sure mix was right, or
so we finished recording in 2021, and I think we probably had everything like mixed and mastered by the end of 21, but we spent so much time like writing the record and like being super meticulous with everything. We didn't want to have artwork that wasn't like reflective of that effort, I guess. And we had tried working with several different artists, and a lot of the pieces that like brought to us were awesome, and like we're really grateful, but it just wasn't up to like what we wanted. And then Jacob Bannon, Deathwish, Converge, and all that offered to do the artwork, and we're like, yeah. So then he did the artwork, and we were like, yeah, this is fucking sick. We're going with this. Hell yeah.
Nice.
So I mean, it really was like an artwork thing mostly.
That's
yeah.
cool.
It's art and direction and whatnot. It's a process too. I mean, when we're in a position where we're at, you know, we're not really in a place where we can just like kind of drop stuff. Like Nick said, you know, we put so much time into it that we just really wanted to make sure that like we were able to really design a release schedule that is like befitting of it, and that we could like really kind of have all the pieces together for it.
Right. We want to have records in hand for the release show, stuff like that. You know? Just didn't want to half butt any of it.
But yeah, it's good to have it finally like moving along. But and also like it's the prospect of like all of the background stuff for the record really is like whenever people ask us the questions about like what's the hardest thing, it's like, man, I don't know, writing the songs and everything is like that's really easy, and recording is kind of frustrating, but then like figuring out like why people should care. Like what's the extra 20% that makes it a full product? Like what's the visuals? What are the videos? What are the things that give people things to connect with besides just kind of like a thing that they're going to hit a button on their phone and be like, oh, whatever, and like listen. And this will be another, you know, suggested play on Spotify. You know, what's taking it from that to like really making you be like, oh, I like get the full package of what this band is trying to convey. And I don't even know if we were entirely ready when we wrote the record to really kind of sit into what the record meant. And I think over the past couple years, as the art has slowly been being developed, and as we've been really choosy with who we're going to work with video production and like with things like that, and also like kind of branching ourselves out to be like, well, who else can we work with, you know? And that was like bringing Jacob on board. You know, he took my photography for a brief memoriam, and like he really did like the layout and everything. But with this one, we were like, you know, we want you to like do your thing, as opposed to like taking because I had a bunch of photography that was like, okay, we can use this for like inlays or like whatever, or inserts and things like that. But like we want to like really let this one breathe and be like us as the music, but kind of seeing what can come of it when we involve a little bit more people and like kind of cast our net a little bit more with people that believe in us. And that takes time, and it takes kind of letting the project evolve a little bit more and mature. So,
yeah. Was the label cool with that? Just letting you take your time, or were they like, all right, guys, pick some out?
They really were.
Like, Deathwish is like, of the business relationships I'm involved in, has been the easiest one. Like they, you know,
and they're growing and expanding too at the same time as well. And so that's another thing, like the label's growing, all their little distros that are like underneath them and whatnot. They're all doing well. Music, and I think guitar-based music in general is exploding right now. Again, really cool. I mean, it's really helping all of us out a lot. And so like with that, you know, I think that Deathwish was eager to have more resources too for us when this record drops, you know. So it's just we've been growing in the same way that they've been too.
But they've been awesome. They've been great.
Yeah.
Talk about the lyrical context on this record. You talked about Scaffolding being about like COVID and lockdown. Is this just still more just processing grief of your mother's passing?
Yeah, because it's for sure. It's it was kind of hard because like, I mean, I was getting into a situation where like all of that, it's like hard to move forward in, and this is, I mean, this really can like be sort of a pointer towards like a lot of mental health issues in this country. But it's hard to deal with those things when you're worried about how you're going to eat, and how you're going to pay your bills, how you're going to keep your heating on, how you're going to keep your electricity on, things like that. Like, when a lot of basic fundamental things about the society that you exist in are not things that are guaranteed, it makes growing as a person impossible. Yeah. And so that was sort of like an opening thing with it, because it felt really, I actually found some letters that I wrote. I try to do this practice of writing a letter around the new year to my mom. And I found one from like 2020 or 2021. And a lot of what I was conveying in those like personal letters was just like, man, everything is just, I know everyone's saying it and it's reiterating what we all know, but it felt so stagnant. Like, just, you can't move on. I felt eternally 28, even though I was turned 30, you know, and I'm just like, man, how do you deal with the grief of this when you're dealing with the grief of losing your career? I mean, it's like, it's right. Crazy. I mean, so yeah, it's a pretty, I guess the idea of scaffolding is sort of like, hey, if you've experienced any sort of trauma, or if you're going through anything or growing and you had anything happen during COVID, you know how terrible it was to like try to figure out I guess figure out like where you're going, like when everything becomes so open-ended and I guess not guaranteed.
How does the album title Artificial Bouquet wrap everything up?
Boy, that's so the album title is derived from a lyric in song 7.
What? No,
we know them by numbers. We're still not doing it. It's good work.
Song 7, track 7.
Songs track 7. It's No Resolution.
No Resolution. Yeah.
Yeah. It's in No Resolution, and it's sort of like a lot of the stuff in this record is sort of an angry record. A lot of the stuff that happened during COVID that inspired the lyrics was and basically when I lost my job and lost my career in social work, and when I was basically just sitting here every day for like months and months and months, and just kind of like, and then we were going to band practice, and it was like being in my apartment alone and then going to band practice and like being here. And I was doing a lot of meditating and a lot of like trying to think about a lot of I was trying to like go through some personal growth, trying to fight what I was basically saying, like trying to be like, I'm not going to be stagnant. I'm going to try to like meditate, figure out my issues, I did a lot of working out and like addressing physical issues. I was trying to address a lot of mental health issues too. And I kind of realized that there were a lot of things from my relationship with my mother that were extremely, extremely unhealthy, and should have been, for lack of a better word, should have been resolved. Yeah. And a lot of conversations that an adult should have with their parent. And a lot of those conversations and a lot of those things are really detrimental to my personal growth. A lot of those conversations weren't able to happen. And so this record is, in a lot of ways, lyrically, for me personally, is sort of laying out a lot of those things, and in sort of like, I am so upset that I can't have you alive here to show you that like I'm not some fuck up. Like, I figured out life. I'm okay. I did this band thing. I did music. I did everything that you didn't want me to do. I lived life completely opposite of how you wanted. And guess what? I'm going to get married and have kids. And like, I'm going to have a fine, adjusted life. and she's not here for that. So this record is really just sort of, these are all the things that I wish I could say. These are all the things that I wish I could show you. These are all the ways that I could say, like, the first record was a big shock, and this record is a, like, I'm mad that you're gone, because you should see that you were not a good mom to me in a lot of ways. And I had to go on despite that. And I had to unlearn a lot of behaviors that you instilled in me. And that's not fair. Like, that sucks. I should have been able to have those conversations. But the lyrics on this record is the best that will ever happen. So that's kind of where it lies.
Yeah. Tough to move forward after an answer like that, but you guys are heading on the road doing a brief Midwest kind of Southern stint before heading to Europe. Is that your plan for this year? Just like, hey, the record's finally out, maybe like a reintroduction of the band to the world, and just spend you on the road?
Just gonna grind as hard as we can. Like, we have this run in March, you're talking about Europe in April, doing some dates in May, heading out to this Year Renaissance Festival in LA, which is a benefit for Palestine. We'll do some dates around that. June, I think we're chilling for a second.
Yeah, we're gonna chill in June. I'm getting married in June, and then we're gonna tour in July with
July. We're going
State
out
Faults, right?
with some of the dates are with State Faults, and then we're still figuring out some other stuff. August, we go back to Europe.
Nice.
And then the rest of the year we have like some crazy plans that aren't fleshed out yet. So
we're gonna be busy this year. We've been waiting to push for a while. So.
Our whole band philosophy is to just like get in the van and go, And we've always been like, I consider us like a live band first and foremost.
Absolutely.
And we've been on tour basically since 2017. Besides the pandemic, obviously, but so that's always the main focus.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for listening to As the Story Grows. Our intro music was written and composed by Jeremy Hunt. The As the Story Grows theme is by Bob Nana. If you like what you hear, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and give us a rating and review. If you'd like to support the show financially, you can join us at patreon.com/asthestorygrows. Be a part of our community and join the ongoing conversation over on Discord. If you enjoy this episode, share it on social media with your friends. Much appreciated, and thanks for listening.